I got this Thai Con for $8 a few days ago because it has this broken leaf, and that's disappointing because that is the lead growth point, so it's going to have to find a new way to grow, but I do have to repot it before it can do that, so it has a chance at surviving. So the first thing I do is just shake off all of that dirt. I literally do not touch the roots, I just shake the plant, and that is what I'm doing just in the dirt over behind these trees. And you saw the roots, they looked pretty good, but this is all that's left after that little shaking, which is still enough to fill this pot, and I'm still going to repot it, but I do have to take off that dead leaf first. In almost every single plant that I have, I use these three things, and they are the Better Grow sphagnum moss. I get it at Lowe's, as well as the Better Grow orchid bark that has a little horticultural charcoal and perlite mixed in already. This is what it looks like. I also use topsoil for my philodendrons and more terrestrial plants. But we're going to start with a thin layer of sphagnum moss, just enough to cover those drainage holes. You do not need a lot. This is just going to hold in a little moisture and humidity. And then I go in with my very chunky orchid bark mix and just fill enough to cover that sphagnum moss. And it doesn't take a lot, you just need a bit. This is when I set the plant in and arrange those roots to look pretty. If it had larger roots, I would fill a little bit of orchid bark around this also, as well as this topsoil that I'm going to do, but since this has so few roots, I'm just going to do a little thin layer of topsoil, just enough to cover the roots. This is going to give a really high humidity and moist environment for those roots to get lots of water. But with that chunky orchid bark around it, then it's still going to get a lot of airflow and promote a lot of new growth even faster. And with that layer of sphagnum on the bottom, the whole bottom half of the pot is going to hold quite a bit of moisture and humidity, so you can go a little bit longer in between waterings, which is always nice. And even if you do have a heavier watering hand, all of this chunky orchid bark is going to be a little more forgiving and provide a lot more airflow, so those roots won't rot as easily. But look at all this dirt under my nails, so I had to go clean that. I do not like dirty nails. But then the final thing, all we have to do is add a little layer of orchid bark on top, just enough to keep that plant stable and secure. And this is just a little mulch to hold in that humidity from the topsoil so it doesn't dry out as fast. I do this or similar things on most of my aeroids and philodendron and similar, plants like this, and it works wonderfully. A little warning, the orchid bark does need a few weeks to fully start absorbing that water and hold on to it more, so you should be watering a little bit more frequently the first few weeks after you repot. But this works wonderfully with most of my aeroids and philodendron, monstera, anthurium, stuff like that. It's wonderful and so easy and provides a lot of room for error, which I really appreciate.